Today we're going to talk about using your drum pad and drum pad kit for the very first time. We're going to learn about the parts and setting up and the basic grip of your drumsticks during this lesson. Now you may have your equipment in a kit, something like this. The bag might look different, or you might have your stuff all completely separate. Any way is fine and it'll work for today's lesson. But let's start with this kit and learn about how to take things out of it. Let's start by opening up the bag, shall we? I've got mine set on the floor, and I would recommend setting it on the floor or on top of a bed, a hard flat surface. Don't set it on top of a chair or do it with standing up. You want the flat part facing up and the very, very thinnest part facing up. Usually there's a name tag, something like that on it. There may be a small pouch too. A lot of these vary quite a bit though. Start by unzipping it. This will give you an indication if you have it the right way. The lid is the thin part, and open it up. Ta-da! All kinds of stuff in here. Some that we're going to use in today's lesson, and some that we're not. For instance, there's this small bell kit in here. We're not using that in today's lesson. I'm going to just gently set it aside. Inside my case, I've got some compartments holding some things. A pair of mallets, some sticks, and some stand pieces. Let's start with these stand pieces first. There's two really big pieces. That's one of them. That's another one that I'm going to need. You might also have a little folding music stand in here, and some of your stand pieces might be wrapped in plastic. You don't need the plastic. You can get rid of that once you unwrap it. There's also a pair of drumsticks in here. Take those out and set them down. Now where's the drum part? It may be in a pocket or in this part. In this particular kit, it's located in the top pouch. And there's my practice pad. Your practice pad might look very different than this, and we'll talk about that in a moment too. So now you've got these parts that we need to put together to assemble our practice pad. First, let's start with the part that has some rubber feet on it. This is your stand base. These might open up. If they don't, you'll find a little thumb screw near the top, not the very, very top one, but right below that. Just give it a tiny loosen. Here's the little rule on loosening and tightening. All you need is one turn. That was like a half turn and it's loose. Any more than that, you're going to have the screws fall out. I'm going to just gently open the legs up, and for right now, we want to set them not too wide and not too thin. Kind of like if you were standing up. You don't want your feet right next to each other, and you don't want your legs as wide as possible. Another good thing to follow is that the feet should sit kind of flat on the ground. If you have an instrument you're setting up, you always want the stand base wider than the instrument that it's supporting. In this case, that wouldn't be a problem. I'm going to give this a turn again to tighten it till it stops, and then leave it alone. If you tighten it too hard, you're damaging it. You'll start to dent this tube. Then I'm going to take the next part and gently insert it into this part. Now, if it doesn't fit, you may need to loosen this by a turn or so. There's also a black plastic insert right inside there, and it's very important that the small tube fits inside of the larger tube. Don't force it. It will fit snugly in most cases. There it goes. And for now, I'm just going to leave a little room and gently tighten that. Again, remember that your stand may be very different than this, and we'll cover some options in just a moment. But now we're ready to put the drum pad part onto the stand part. At the top of the stand part is a threaded rod. In the bottom of my drum pad is a place to insert that. We want to match those two together gently, make sure they fit, and gently turn. If it doesn't turn easily, you're doing it wrong. Turn it till it just stops. And just a little bit more of a turn to make sure that it's secure, and you're good to go. Now we need to adjust the height. To get your pad at the right height, you want to do the following things. I like to follow the rule of thumb. Take your hand, your fist like this, put your thumb right where your belly button is, and where the bottom of your hand is, that's where the top of this pad should be. So I've got to raise mine up. How do I do that? In the middle is the screw that you used to put these two pieces together. I'll gently loosen that and raise it up till I get it to the right spot. Let's see. Belly button, right there. Tighten it up. Now I have my pad at the correct height for my height. Rule of thumb. Now there are a lot of different practice pad types. The kind I'm using is a tunable practice pad. It has an actual drum head on it, usually made of some kind of plastic. There's a lot of different brands of these. Many pads are made with a gum rubber top to them. Some of them are round, some of them are square, some of them have other different shapes. These work really well because they're bouncy, very quiet, and pretty light to carry around. Some of them might have a threaded rod to fit on a stand like this. Many of them don't, in which case you have a couple options. If it's large enough, you can fit it into a standard snare drum stand, and your instructor can help you do that. But make sure that the basket arms fit tightly around it so it doesn't move. Other kinds that are flat, or if they don't have a threaded hole in the bottom, you can simply set on a music stand. Now, you want to grab the sturdiest music stand you can find, not one that's going to be all wishy-washy that it's going to fall over, because you're going to be playing on it and putting some stress on it. So find a sturdy music stand, make sure it's one that's tight. Let me turn mine around this way so you can see. And level, we don't want it tipped. Set your pad on it that way, follow your rule of thumb to get it to the right height. All of those work. Okay, so you've got your drum pad set up. We're ready to play, right? Not quite. What about these? What are we going to do with these? You can't just grab them any old way. Well, you could, but what makes you a musician is doing things with a certain level of technique. So let's learn how to hold our drumsticks. There's a lot of different sizes of drumsticks, and your instructor is going to make some recommendations to you on the right sizes to get. You don't want some that are too thin, you don't want some that are too thick, you want some that are just right. This particular brand, Vic Firth, makes one that's called an ST General. It's a great size for middle school hands. There's several other brands that make some that are a similar size as well that are outstanding. This particular brand I like because it has a flag on it, and that flag is in the bottom third of the drumstick. And if you put your thumb on that flag and just grip it between your thumb and first finger, actually your thumb and first two fingers, this point here is what we call the fulcrum. It's the main point of contact when gripping the stick. Then gently wrap the other fingers around. Now you want to move those fingers in a little bit too. So the stick is going to rest against the fleshy part of your palm, right up against these fingers with the fingers wrapped around them. Not held out like this, okay? It's gripped, much as if like you were going to take it from somebody. So now I have my fingers gently wrapped around, most of the tension made at the fulcrum. You're going to do that on both hands. Thumb on the flag, fulcrum, fingers wrapped around. So now my sticks make what looks kind of like a slice of pizza, huh? Little upside down V. Great. Now, for a moment, take the sticks out of your hands. And if you put one hand up, and imagine that you're knocking on a door. Notice that your hand is moving front to back. Now, I'm not using my arm. I'm not pounding on the door. I'm knocking politely. Knock, knock, knock. Now, if I put the stick back into that hand, and I do the same thing, this is the motion that we're going to use. It's not a turning of the wrist like turning a doorknob. It's like knocking. It's a down-up motion. Okay, so with my drum pad set up, bring my hands up. Now I want my arms at about a 90-degree angle or slightly greater. I don't want my hands up like a praying mantis, and I don't want my arms dropped a lot. Pretty much here or just a little bit less. And I'll put them over the pad. Notice that I still have my pizza slice, that V, and also my hands are flat. So let's quickly go through our checklist. Thumb on the flag, maintain a fulcrum, fingers wrapped loosely around, hands flat, make a V or a pizza slice. Now if I take one hand and I do that same knocking motion that I did here, and I do it down here, that's our basic stroke that we're going to use. It's what we call a full stroke. Some people also call it a rebound stroke, but it's a down-up stroke. Almost as if I was jumping down onto a trampoline and bouncing right back up. Don't be in a rush. Take your time to get that right. Try the other hand. Make sure that you're using a down-up wrist motion and not an arm motion. And you're working to hit the pad in the center. Now there's some exercises in some videos that you can follow that also work on this stroke and several others. But that's the start to playing your practice pad. Percussion is a really, really exciting world with a lot of different instruments. So your instructor is going to show you some other lessons and some other videos that will help you learn a whole lot about the wonderful world of percussion. Thanks for watching today.